Good afternoon. This is Victor again. It's been a while. We go on Facebook Live, and today it's the Monday. Well, last week, quite a big week. Last week, a lot of good news happening last week, and of course, we're still waiting. Also, a very important announcement supposed to be this afternoon. But apparently, the National Cabinet has postponed the decisions of dealing with the potential new threat of Omicron's virus that might affecting the days of the border reopen, which supposed to be the 1st of December. So anyway, a bit of summarize about what were the good news last week. First of all, from the 1st of December, which is in 2 days, most of visa holders are allowed to enter Australia without quarantine, of course, on the basis you are fully vaccinated. That is a great news. That is a great news for student visa holders and temporary residence visa holders and other visa as well. Tourism visa at this stage are not included, but in terms of skilled migration streams, student visas and temporary visa, 45 visa holders are allowed to enter Australia. As I just mentioned before, they may subject to some potential change tomorrow. The cabinet's national cabinet is considering if they want to take further actions or strict actions, conscious action steps to deal with the potential spread of the virus. What I've been seeing some news report, potentially there's another 1 week or 2 weeks response, but it will be released tomorrow. But anyway, the general trends of the border reopen, it's happening. So that's very good, great news for anyone who is not currently in Australia and they're coming back to Australia for either continuing study, continuing work, or preparing for migration purpose. That's a great news, first thing. Second, ATD government, Canberra government, which where I'm based in at this moment, also announced a great policy. You can take it as a concession policy for those, again, offshore applicants. The rules goes like, if you depart Canberra before the 1st of February 2020, you can still claim your residency points as long as you return back to Canberra before the 1st of March 2022. I'll take an example. Somebody who has been living in Canberra for quite a while, a couple months, and they left Australia on the 20th of January 2020. They haven't got a chance to come back because of border closure till this moment, and then apply to return to Australia next month before the 1st of March 2022. They're going to have those residency points back. So it's like a compensation of residency points because the government know you cannot be able to enter Australia due to the border restriction. It's like they're pretending you are actually in Canberra. That's a great news for any people looking for higher points and for Canberra Matrix purpose. And that is a great news for those students who continue study online while you're not in Australia, and they could give you a good motivation to come back to continue study and continue your migration pathway in the future. It's a compensation, but remember there was 2 definitions here since the policy announced. We get students to ask the questions. There was 2. First of all, you want to understand the deadline is 1st of March 2022. And you have to come back to Canberra actually before that time. So in the future, when you apply for state nomination, they want to see your bank statement again. They want to see your international movement record to show that you actually enter Australia and arrive in Canberra, evidenced by bank statements, before 1st of March 2022. You have to remember there's a deadline here. If you arrive in Canberra after that, then this concession policy does not apply to you. Second thing is, we got some people asking what will be the definition of residency in Canberra before 1st of February 2020. So how government going to tell if I'm a resident in Canberra before I depart Australia 2 years ago? Well, it will be basing on a general sense of residency. So I'll make 2 examples. Somebody who are ANU students from 2019 to 2020, let's say early 2020, and then before he depart Australia, he went to Sydney for 2 months of holiday before you leave Australia. Well, if that's the case, you'll be still considered as a Canberra resident because you are long-term Canberra resident. So you will be subject to the grant of the points. Another example, somebody who used to be living in Sydney from 2018 to 2019 until November 2019, you have been a Sydney resident all the time, and then you moved to Canberra for 2 months, and then you went back to your home country. Then the residency, which is again evidenced by bank statement, will tell the officer you'll be a short-term resident in Canberra for 2 months. For 2 months. So if that's the case, that's a higher chance you will not recognize as a Canberra resident. So about this part, there was no particular the length of residency they require you to show the government as a resident. The officer says this will be assessed case by case basis, but again, we think it will be based on common sense. So residents, if you've been here for quite a while before you leave Canberra, then you will be. If you just short-term passengers or short-term residents in Canberra, then you're probably not subject to this condition. So remember, there's a deadline as well, 1st of March 2022. Okay, there's second good news about the concession policy provided by ACT government. And to that, I want to address you to this point. ACT government is currently the only state government giving welcoming policy, to addressing the national border reopen. They didn't till this moment. Still, the other state government hasn't announced any, detailed policy about giving concession to international students. ACT is only one, so you can tell they are showing a very friendly migration policy, by introducing the concession. Okay, the third policy is about 485 visa holders, and this will be a long-term impact policy decision. So simply saying, in the future, which just means we're actually affected from last week. So any master course, students who study master course, you'll be granted to 3-year visa rather than 2. Actually, we're starting to see students who apply the 485 visa, and their 485 visa has not been granted. They're starting to getting 3-year visa as well. So, and then of course, in the future, the trade skill occupations, people will be getting 2 years of visa. So basically, 2 years become 3 years, 1.5 years become 2 years. This is a long-term impact, as I'm showing. The Australian government is turning its wheel to another directions. I would say in the past 5 years, if we think Australian migration policy is going, tightening the policy, which is getting not that welcoming, but this policy is a trend. We're going to see more welcoming policy. The Australian government realizing they have to make some efforts in order to get the attentions of international students, and this is a great policy because students will automatically have 3 years of visa, and that leaves them more time to looking for employments and also planning for their migration in the future. So it might attract a lot of students to come to Australia because you're going to have more temporary visa time, and that's one policy of the 485. Second is people who have been granted the 485 visa and they haven't got a chance to visit Australia because of all the restrictions, you might get some compensation as well. But this policy, we're still waiting for the detail of the policy, and at this stage, and it is been told this policy will be affected from the 1st of July 2022. So there will be some new policy details coming out. But generally speaking, 485 visas, you might get concession and you may get a longer time of the visa in the future. So that will play an important role in terms of the strategies of education, in Australia to attracting more students in the future. So there are 3 great news. There are some other as well, but these are 3 great news. First one is the border reopen, which have been working for about 2 years. Second is ACT government's getting some concession policy to offshore residents. If you come back to Australia, remember, before the 1st of March 2022, and you will be enjoying this concession policy. The third one is about 485 visa, so you might get longer visa in the future, or you will get some compensation if you meet certain criteria. So these are 3 combining policy looking some from the state government, some from the federal governments. So this is have been very lot of good news in the last week. A lot of people are very excited about those changes. Again, following that, we get some inquiries from those people who are currently in Australia or particularly currently in Canberra. They feel concerned. They feel concerned about feeling about more competition is coming. They're asking if those policies are going to change the landscape of matrix invitation at this stage. My answer will be it will, but it will take some time before we see the competition actually coming. I'm saying ideally, if those people who are attracted by the ACT concession policy actually get a chance to come back to Australia, you have to consider flight arrangements, accommodation arrangements, and vaccination and everything, and the potential the change might brought up by the Omicron in the following weeks. If there are a bunch of people coming back to Australia, I would think a few hundred will be very good. It will be ideally. So let's say 100, 200, or 300 people actually attracted by this ACT concession policy and arrive in Canberra, and they want to prepare for their ACT invitation nomination. Remember, they still need to come back for 3 months of residency. They still need to come back for 3 months of employment before they be able to submit 491 metrics 6 months for 190. So it's not like they return back to Canberra and the second day they will join the competition. It will take 6 months, 3 months, to get them to prepared for all those basic criteria before they can apply for the metric. So that's something you want to bear in mind. And also, in terms of the numbers of those returners, I will be very concerned. I will be very conscious about what actually, how many people will actually come back at this stage of time. So, but in long term, I would say, after July next year, we will see the overseas student coming back gradually, triggered and motivated by the border controlled situations, and also the greater policy federal government it's issuing. So you will see more and more internationals coming back for sure. But this financial year, which is from maybe January till June, you will see some competition. You're starting to see international students coming back, temporary visa holder coming back. We're going to see more busier ANU campus. To maybe not as much as we can see before, but we're going to see more students coming back as well. So I would suggest to those who are working on their migration planning in Canberra, don't worry about those competitions. What you want to do is you want to get job criteria ready as soon as possible, and submit your metric as soon as possible, and then get your nomination. It will not cause a lot of change to the landscape of metrics invitation situation this financial year. That's my expectation. We get some inquiry as well about the current migration. The metrics points. 491 points remain very stable. 65 points. It has been 65 for quite a while. 190 points. We started to see some crazy numbers. Invitation numbers over 100, 110, and then I guess some inquiries asking if there will be regular, which means will the minimum cutting off points for 190 invitation remain over 100 points? I think my response to that is when you see 190 invitation points show as 100, 105, 110, these are very rare, which means that's one number or two. So in that particular invitation round, there's only one people get invited within the group, within the occupation, and this guy is 110. So the points show as 110. But again, we have to see all those numbers from the beginning of financial year till this moment. 90 points seems to be the average points of the invitation for 190. It is still high. It is still higher than what we expected at the beginning of financial year. We thought it's going to be 80, but now it's 90. We'll get a chance to speak to the ACT government as well, and they think the points, it's high, but they have to invite all those invitations, issue those invitations based on the database. So that's what it is, 90 points or 90 points plus. So, but because of the supply and demand thing, so apparently there are a lot of people who are willing to waiting for longer time to get 190, which push up the 190 points. So some people rather to wait for a year or two just to get their chance of applying 190, and they don't want to do 491. So these are people actually pushing higher the points within the 190 pool. And because of the number limited, which is 600 places this financial year for 190, the points remain pretty high. 491 stable at 1,400 places, a lot of places to be offered. So the points remain pretty low, 65. And the question brings to, will the 190 points actually drop in the coming months? I don't know, but we have seen a couple months of rotation, and then based on the current situation, I would say 90 points would be reasonable. Would it drop significantly? Probably not. If you want to see some significant drop, then we're gonna need more places for 190, which might happen next financial year based on the current situation, which is we see the starting of a more welcoming Australian migration policy. If next year the federal government announced an increase of the migration numbers, so bigger plans of bigger migration plan and more places to be offered. If let's say the overall migration figures increasing from 200,000 places, increase to 200,000 places, then if that's the case, state government is going to have a bigger share, okay? And in comes to ACT, we have 2,000 places this year. If it's a 10 or 20% jump next year, then there are probably more places for 190, and the points will go down. But at this financial year, I would say 65 for 491 and 90 for 190. So that's probably we're going to see in the coming months. But generally speaking, it's a great news. It was a lot of great news happening last year, and we're probably going to see some more detailed explanations to the 4A5 visa policies in the coming weeks. And but the border open again, along with the ACT government's welcoming policy, concession policy, I think it will attract some people come back to Canberra for migration purpose. That is for sure. They again, I'm saying they're not going to jump the competition straight away. They still need to prepare their job. They still need to get their points right, get their English tests prepared, because some of the people English is actually already expired. It's been 2 years since they left Australia, so they will not join the competition straight away, but they will in the future. So this is what we see the ACT programs at this stage and the Australian migration policy at stage. Again, Omicron, we know nothing about Omicron at this stage. We just know it's a vibrant versions of the COVID-19, and apparently a lot of countries was taking these threats seriously, Australian governments as well. So maybe tomorrow we're going to see some announcement regarding to the border reopen. Would it be get postponed, delayed, or maybe there would be some restrictions to international arrivals? We have to see that. But I think the general trend is that, which is the border is opening. The border it's post-pandemic era we enter into Australia. As we all see, Australia need more people to come, and labor shortage as well. There was a lot of places calling for labor to fulfill. So this is the general trend. So we're going to see a more welcoming policy in the coming year for sure. Oh, right. And there are some people offshore is asking if the ACT governments open to offshore applicants. We remember 2 or 3 years ago, well actually before pandemic, 2 years ago, there are offshore matrix string, but it has been, because of the COVID and everything, has been stopped for 2 years. Would the ACT government reopen to the offshore applicants, which means some people who are living in not in Australia, in any country apart Australia, can apply for the matrix directly? Maybe I think because the border is open, so we might see those kind of news in the following weeks as well. So if there's a chance, that is also great news for those people who are residents in other countries. But at this stage, we can see good policies, and when it comes to how many people will actually come back to Australia, particularly to Canberra, we have to see the flights and everything in the coming weeks. But this is a great news as well. Great news. Okay. So yep, this is just a bit summary. I think we have been seeing a lot of reports, a lot of summaries in the past week. I was just going to give you some summarize about those news and what are you going to do, what kind of impact will this policy have on Matrix in the coming months, particularly within this financial year. Okay, thank you for watching this short summarizing video today. And one good news, we're going to move to level 4 15 London circuits from next Monday. So any people who are looking to visit us and looking for consultation since next week, you want to go to level 4 15 London circuit. Okay, better to ring us before you come. Okay? And we're going to post videos about the location of our new office and a bit of video shooting about our new office over the weekends. So you guys will be very easy to find our new office through the guidance of the video. Again, thank you for watching this short video this afternoon. Again, take care, and it has been a great week. Yeah.